Before we get started, my name is Brendan Howe. I'm the CEO of Techify. I'm joined by Jermaine Clark, who is our fantastic Director of Intelligent Technology.
Thanks for having me along.
Thank you for joining me, Jermaine.
Thanks for having me along.
I think this is probably our sixth or seventh webinar. I think I forgot to count. We've got some good feedback in doing these that people like the 30-minute concept. So what we try and do is keep our webinars to 30 minutes of content. Go through, get some value, get in, get out. Everybody's had lots of exposure these days to the hour-long webinars that could probably be half an hour-long webinars. So we just do half an hour-long webinars, but we stay on afterwards. If anybody has any questions, pop them in the question pane, and we will stay on and we'll answer questions as long as people have questions. We've been doing these webinars third Wednesday of every month, and we've got our webinar topics. We'll mention them at the end, but we're going to be doing Teams webinars next. So if questions as we go through, please put them in the Q&A pane, and we will make sure that we will answer them. So without further ado, this is SharePoint 101, and it's a special Happy St. Patrick's Day edition.
Oh, see, I brought the shirt out as close as I could get to St. Patty's green. But yeah, Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Well, that's impressive, Jermaine. I've got green socks on, but everybody will have to take my have to take my word for it. So we're doing SharePoint 201, and we do have St. Patty's Day on one slide. We'll go back to orange after this slide. Our assumptions here is that you've watched our SharePoint 101 webinar, or that you have a fair understanding of SharePoint on a basic level. If you want to watch our 101, you can go back, and it's on our website in the on-demand webinars part of our website. So our goal today, really two goals we want to talk about. We've been talking a lot with our clients in these webinars. We want to help everybody save 4 hours per week per employee. Since COVID, a lot of challenges. Everybody's working differently. There's challenges on margins. There's challenges on costs. We want to make people as efficient as possible. There's a little bit of stress going on outside of work too. So if we can take some of the load off our people in our team by saving some time. And the other goal that we had for what we're looking at today is to properly secure data in this new work from anywhere world, right? A lot of people have a version of some people working from home, some people working in the office, or people doing both. And securing our data in this new world is super important, I think, to everybody, right, Jermaine?
Absolutely. I mean, if any of us are keeping up with the current news blasts, there are exposures every day, and they're not happening to a company or a specific country. They're happening worldwide. Outages, exposures, everything. So we've got to work hard to keep our data safe, and everybody that we come into contact with, as best as we can, their data safe as well.
Absolutely. So in that vein, what we're going to be talking about today is 6 things, 6 kind of topics. So first one, we'll recap a little bit our SharePoint 101. We're going to talk about how to find files quickly, versioning, how to deal with when people make mistakes, automation, getting rid of paper, and doing all this stuff securely, and making sure that we're not making people a lot more productive just by making them less secure. Where we like to start on the SharePoint front is to talk about Teams. Why would we start talking about SharePoint by talking about Teams, Jermaine?
Well, it is the most popular way most people are actually getting that access to their SharePoint. And it's a great front end to make sure that if you're in a single pane of glass and you don't want to be browsing around your computer all the time for a file or a folder, everything from SharePoint can be accessed through Teams as the front end. So it's a really good place to start. It's the most common thing you'll find going forward.
Yeah, and I think some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today obviously requires the web access side of things and the more advanced capability. But so many people, it is way easier just to access it through Teams. And then the other question that we get quite a bit is, What about my map drives? So Jermaine, what do we do about our map drives?
Well, a great way to deal with that is to have a map drive.
So we don't have to change if we're used to Windows Explorer, if we're used to Word and Excel and file save as, whether it's SharePoint or file server, we can kind of access it the same way, right?
Yeah, and it's very easy from your SharePoint. As you can see from the slide, if you look at it, all you have to do is you pick the file that you want to see, you click on it, and then you go up there and you hit add shortcut to OneDrive. And then from any of your Windows Explorer windows, you'll be able to see the exact file that's in SharePoint, and it'll continue to sync back and forth.
And it's awesome. You can just do this yourself. You don't have to call the IT department for it.
That's always a plus.
IT folks, like, of course, our clients can call us anytime, but it's super easy to do. Oh, where'd that come from? So here's our summary of SharePoint 101. My favorite slide. No more VPN. We're on a campaign to get rid of VPN. You know, we've talked about this like maybe once or twice before. VPN's a bit of a pain in the butt. So if we can get rid of, well, we're all working remotely, or some of us are working remotely, or I guess in our case, I'm working in the office. Jermaine, you're working remotely at your house.
But an office, but not the same one. Yeah.
But you don't need to use VPN, right?
Absolutely not. And the good thing about it is I think we should just keep this slide in every single one we do this year, just so we could keep, beating it to death until nobody wants to see VPN anymore. So,
yeah. If anybody's on a crusade against VPN like I am, you can come join my support group or my Crusaders group. So we talked about how with SharePoint, you no longer need to have VPN. But we talked in 101 about working on the same files at the same time, being able to collaborate in real time, or co-authoring, as Microsoft calls it, and working that way. And we talked about, kind of gave an overview of what the different options were for sites and stuff like that in SharePoint. So here, actually, let me just set the stage, and we'll talk a little bit more about why SharePoint. So some research Forrester's did. It talks about information workers can save 100 minutes per week with improved collaboration and information share. So especially around co-authoring and reviewing documents. This is a big part of what this is SharePoint, right? 100 minutes. So that's on the table. That's on the table for you. If you're not using SharePoint right now, you have an opportunity to save a whole bunch of time. Also in that same study, they talked about frontline workers saving 140 minutes per week from improved tools and information. That's part of the SharePoint world too, right? And then secure remote access. This is, no VPN. If you can access it securely remotely, you can save 24 minutes a day for some people. 24 minutes a day. So here's the cool thing, and here's what we're trying to do with everything that we're looking at today. This isn't going to be exact for your company. Like, we're not saying, hey, every company is going to save 24 minutes, or every company is going to save 140 minutes, or every company is going to save 100 minutes. But there's an opportunity there. And there's an opportunity there that we want you to explore, to figure out if you can get that 4 hours a week, or if you can get 2 hours a week, even if it's 2 hours a week in play. It's huge value, right?
Yes.
Here's one other average interaction worker. I haven't heard interaction worker before, so that's interesting. I think we're interaction workers. Like we like to interact, but Jermaine, I think we like to say we're slightly above average, right?
I would think so. We're more of a extra above average interaction workers.
Okay. So, but if you're an average interaction worker, you spend about 20% of your time looking for internal information and tracking down colleagues. I've heard stuff like IDC stuff saying between an hour and a half a day and 2.5 hours a day, somebody spends just looking for information. So you think about that possibility, that opportunity that we have in our businesses. If we can give our team a better way to find information, we can help people save a ton of time. So we're going to talk today about 5 ways that you can use SharePoint effectively. So we're going to give 5 examples. Again, we want to whet your appetite a bit. We want to get you thinking about how you can apply SharePoint to your business.
Yeah.
Jermaine and I are also a little excited because we learned a new way to do some videos and to add some demos. So we've been going a little demo crazy because we thought instead of us just being talking heads, we'll show you some videos and show you some demos of how we use SharePoint. Again, hopefully it gets you thinking about how it could be useful to your business and help you achieve your overall business goals and use technology better. So let's talk about search functionality within SharePoint.
I'll take that one, Brendan. I mean, one of the primary things, if we were looking at the stats just now, and that 20% of lost time, whether you lose 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour and a half a day searching for something, that's a great way to quickly recoup some time. If you've got a good way to look for a file or look for the most recent version of a file, which we'll get into later, is it's one of the biggest things. Like, I can't find the file. Who has the file? Where's this document or that document? So a great way to look for files in the system without having to comb through all of the old manillas would really be to have a good way to just say, hey, I'm looking for file this. I'm looking for file Brendan or file Jermaine, and just type the name in and see all the options that I have that relate to that keyword. And it's really simple overall, works the same as the internet. If you can use Google to search or Bing or wherever you search, Yahoo search, it doesn't matter. Everybody uses the same format. They've got a database of information. They index it by keywords, they index it by alphabetical order and so forth. And then you throw a word in there and it spits out a number of results that may be relevant to you, right? And since we're gonna go into this exciting way of putting these little demos into slides straight off of our screen, we're gonna show you how simple it is to just find a document.
Just before we show our first demo, Jermaine, some people watching this webinar right now may have a little bit of PTSD, like I used to have with search and Microsoft, right? Like, you know how you used to search in Outlook and it was just a train wreck. You couldn't find anything. It wasn't useful.
Absolutely.
And so I went into using SharePoint with the same mentality. Like, Microsoft can't really do search very well. And I was pretty amazed by it.
So yeah, all you have to do is type in the word that you're looking for that identifies with anything within the document. And as an example, we were looking for the old SharePoint from the last month's webinar, and you just typed in SharePoint and there you go. SharePoint's there. You click on the file and the file loaded.
Yeah, I'm just going to play
nothing.
I'm going to play that again because maybe it was too fast. Maybe people didn't quite see it. So search bar, I'm looking for SharePoint. I start typing in SharePoint. I don't even finish and I've already found what I'm looking for, right? I know SharePoint is in the name, it's there, and then boom, it's opening up right away. And maybe that's 20% of my day. Maybe that's why I like it so much.
Could be. But then now, so with that search now, if we go into a massive document library and there's, 87 or 90 files with the title or the word SharePoint in it, right? That comes down to how we're going to cover next is looking at, well, what happens when we have a million versions of something?
Okay. So let's talk about versioning and mistakes, right? Like, people make mistakes. So, but a lot of people ask us about versioning. It's in a lot of professional services companies, you end up having multiple people working on documents. You have people working on documents at the same time. There's a document management challenge, right? So we like SharePoint is one of the slightly more advanced features of SharePoint. That if you want to put in place version control, what you can do is you can create a system where people need to check in and check out documents. So it really, if somebody checks out a document, then Jermaine, what happens? Like, if I went and checked out a document, what would happen if you were trying to access that document while I was working on it?
Yeah, so the whole point of the check-in, check-out system would be, I want you to not work on my document or make any changes when I'm doing it. So when I check out that document or you check out the document and I try to connect to it, it'll say this document's currently checked out. And you can either do one of two things, create a separate document and make your own changes, or you wait until the document has been returned to the library and then you can go back to collaborating on it. So it gives you a notification with options. Yeah.
Perfect. So here's how it works. Like this is our demo site that we use to record some videos for these webinars that we're doing. So it's very simple. We go to our documents library in SharePoint. And then we're going to go into the folder that we want to use. We're going to go to the document, look at the menu, go down near the bottom is one that says more, and you just go and you click check out. So when you see your notification that document is now checked out. So when I finish working on that document, I will then go and I'll check it back in, and then it'll ask me for details of what I did. So I can put a note in there about what I did. So simple process. Any member of your team can do it. Not super, super complicated, right? So let's move on to versioning. Question.
No, I mean, one caveat here. If any of this looks too easy or too simple for a 201, it's because it's actually meant to be that way. Otherwise, nobody would want to do any of it, right? You just have to know where to look.
That's a great point. That's the secret with this, right? If it's set up well and people understand how to use it, it's actually really easy, right? Let's see. So let's take another scenario. So I'm working on a document and oops, I deleted a bunch of stuff and I've got auto save on. So it just saved the document and I lost all my stuff and I'm kind of embarrassed about it. And like, do I have to call the IT company and tell them, hey, can we restore this document? Do I have to go to my boss? No, it's super easy. Here's what you do. We go into our demo, we can go access our documents either way. And then we're going to find the document and we're going to, again, click those three dots and we're going to go to version history. And when we click on version history, what it's going to do is going to come up with all the different versions. In this case, this document, not that many versions, but there's three there and you just go and you click restore. I want to restore back version number 1. And then it asks me if that's okay. Or the other thing I can do is I can click on the actual document to see it. So I don't have to restore it. I can see if it's got the information that I need. And this is all like I can do it myself. I don't have to tell my boss. I don't have to go to the IT team. I have that available. Or if somebody makes a change to a document that you don't like, you can always go back to a previous version, save you a ton of time.
Absolutely. And one of the crazy things that you'll see is, especially for templates with an autosave button on, you go in and you're like, oh, I'm going to change. This is the template. And you start typing without saving it as the version you want for the new thing. So now you get all the way to the end. What do? You don't hit the back button and erase all of your work. You save your work and then you go back and restore the original version of the template and save that as template again, as opposed to getting rid of all of your work. And with versioning, question you'll ask is, well, how many versions do I have? Is it going to be 4 versions? And then I can't get anything from last week. The standard is 50 versions for multiple people, and you can even extend it to 1,000 versions. And with that, it only makes incremental changes. So if you wanted to see something from a document restored from 2 years ago, yeah, you could go back and find that document. And it's really impactful, especially for organizations that have projects that last for 10 years. Right? Hey, I wanted to see the original document that was presented to the client in 2017 versus 2021. And you can go back and find that version.
Perfect. So I'm just going to close our polling there. I think probably everybody's had enough of a chance to answer the poll. And that's a good point too. Like we talked about how easy SharePoint is, but it's not easy if it's not configured properly in the back end. So you do need to have that proactive approach. Somebody needs to be looking at your SharePoint settings on a regular basis and communicating to you how it's set up and making any tweaks, looking at them against best practices, that sort of thing. That is absolutely essential to happen on an ongoing basis. Okay, so let's talk about workflows in SharePoint. We're getting to talking about how can we make life easier for our staff? How can we do some more of the advanced, maybe a little bit more advanced stuff, to make things easier for our team. Jermaine, you want to take this one?
Absolutely. I mean, workflows are great. If you've ever met a task that you need to repeat, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, or otherwise, it would be nice to have it organized in a way that doesn't require you to keep going back and doing it from scratch or copy pasting, hitting convert to PDF or any of that. It's a great way to figure out, well, I've got all of these repeatable tasks. It doesn't matter which organization you're in, you're either going to be filing things at the end of the day, getting signatures or approvals, any of that would be considered as a repeatable task. And putting those steps in place, as an example, putting those steps in place, we would want to see, well, I've got this repeatable task. Every time it needs to happen, I want to be able to click maybe 1 or 2 buttons and then just have everything work itself out and give me an end result, right? And that's a great way to save time in between, right? It's a reason we have templates and the like. And we've got a great example that we can show based on a simple a company that requires work orders. It's like, hey, consider Rogers. Hey, I got somebody who needs their internet fixed or their modem replaced. Why don't I go ahead and set up a work order for that person? So your admin person or the person receiving that work order can say, hey, I need to put this in for the client. So it's client number 6. Here's their address because it's somebody putting in that request. Let me go ahead and throw a phone number in there so I can contact them. Hit next. It's a nice, simple form. Do I need to upload anything? Yes, I need to upload the requisition form for a new modem or whatever. Hit next. Is the number already in a project? No? Okay, move it along. If it wasn't a project, you add the project number. And then you put any kind of justification for why a project number needs to be created or doesn't need to be created. Project number already exists, reference project number. Then you go ahead and you just hit the submit button, right? So it's a minute. You've done all of this stuff in a minute. And then what happens is you get an email saying, hey, this work order has been set up. And then you get a report saying, well, here's all the stuff you need for the work order. So if you're sending something, let's say you're at a work site somewhere and your person fills this out, the person internally gets a sheet that says, here's your work order form. Here's all the stuff that we need. And here's the justification for it. Right now, you've got a great way to monitor and deal with that action item by action item.
And I think it's a great example, right? Because we all have things in our business which are repeated processes that either we can make them easier through doing a workflow like this, right? Or we can make them more accurate, right? So in this case, this is an example that we've taken from something that we worked on with a client. And we've sort of sanitized it and taken the client's name off of it and that sort of thing. But they had a process that they wanted to improve the accuracy of it, right? So maybe I'm not sure. Maybe they had a situation where they had to constantly ask, "Is there an open PO for this?" Right? Is the project number already exist? So instead of having to go back and have emails back and forth and have phone calls and stuff like that and waste time on it, they just simplified the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it doesn't have to come in through email either, does it, Jermaine?
No, you can have the document deposited straight to a specific folder in SharePoint, or you can have it sent to a specific link somewhere or straight to the client, right? So, or just have a notification say, hey, you have a new file in this folder. And the way we arrive at those workflows is we go through a very simple process. It's like the document arrives, what needs to happen with the document? It gets routed to a reviewer. That person reviews it. If they disapprove, the document gets rejected. It goes back to whoever the original owner was. If it's met that satisfactory in that approval process, it goes to the next level. So let's say you're doing checks as an example. Anna reviews the checks and the checks are correct in terms of name, company, quantity, amount, so forth. You send those over to the next one. Sean has to sign or approve that these checks are ready for signature. And if he doesn't approve, it goes back to Anna for further review or back to the original person. And then if everything gets approved, the document's accepted, whatever the next step after that is, mail checks or send print checks or whatever it turns out to be, gets completed at the end. And now you want that process to have a feedback loop each time, right? So we would work through that with whatever your challenge may be, and or that repeatable task, and get it into that flow.
Awesome. All right, let's talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, automation, and how you can use SharePoint as part of the Microsoft 365 cloud to automate some processes. Again, improve the accuracy and make things easier. So I should just point out, this webinar today has been created with the input from a whole bunch of our team members. So this is a team effort today. It's probably our biggest team webinar, because we had folks giving ideas and helping us with videos and examples and stuff like that. So I'm super proud of our team. They've put together all these great examples. So let's talk about automation in SharePoint. So here's an example that I'm going to show. It's an example from us. It's our techification process. So our clients would be familiar with every month, our proactive guys do a full day, dedicated day visit and review things against best practices standards and align their network. And that's how we move people from reactive support to what we call intelligent technology. So we had a challenge internally that we wanted to simplify this process, right? Repeatable process happens every day for our folks. And our guys put together these end of day reports. And then the process of getting them all together, sending them to a client, having that look in a consistent way and a simple way for our team was super important. So here's what what we call our automagician, Chris on our team, came up with. So here is 2 reports that he's filled out at the end of the day for a client. He's going to copy them and he's going to paste them into a folder in OneDrive. As he's pasting them there so that they'll get converted into PDF documents. While they're getting converted into PDF documents, which is how we want to send them out, he's going to fill out a form that's just the information from his visit, right? The date, the company, contact name, and email. It's going to go through a set of questions. What did we fix today? What was improved from the fix? What was the biggest risk we identified in auditing against our best practices standards today? And we're going to go through this process, fill out this form. It's going to be the same thing every time. There's some numbers that we want to put in so clients can track, so we can track how many best practices standards we reviewed, how many were aligned. And then once that information is in there, he's going to click submit. First, he's going to double check that the PDFs have been made. So he checks that the PDFs have actually been made automatically. So that's saving time. Then he's pressing submit. So he's spending time on the data entry part, but he's not spending time on the delivery, because this is what the client sees, right? This is an email that's been developed, is professional looking. It has the information we want. It's got the summary on the email. And then you can open up the attachments if you want more details, or if the clients are happy with the summary, they can do that. So we wanted to show this. This is an example. And again, these are simple workflows, but you think the culmination of all our staff, like if we can save 5, 10, 15 minutes a day, like I think this has got to be in the 10 to 15 minutes a day, maybe 5 to 10, depending on how long it takes somebody. But you do that for multiple people over time, and it's great impact, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it keeps it standard, it keeps it uniform. So it doesn't matter who did your review at your site, the report that you get back still has the same structure and valuable information in it that you need.
All right, so we're up against it, but we wanted to talk about security. And last but definitely not least, Jermaine, do you want to take us through the different ways that we can make sure we secure data properly in SharePoint?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest challenges we have is how do we make sure that the data that we're dealing with, when we send it to someone or somebody is sending it or handling that data, how do we ensure that it sticks within whatever compliancy requirements we need, right? And a couple of quick and easy ways to look at how we can control that and manage that access is gonna be revolutionary for security as a user. Typically, as you look right now, you go, hey, I'd like to share this file. I put a ticket in, I call my support guy, my IT guy comes over to my computer to make sure that my secure file is doing what it needs to do. But in reality today, that we are the master of ensuring that our security starts with the user and fills up throughout our space as an organization. So if we've got a really great example here where we can share a file securely and we can define the access. So we're working in the same demo scenario. We go in, I'm going to check this file off and say, hey, I want to share this with someone. So I'm going to go up there and click that share button and I'm going to type a name in. So I'm going to share this to my Techify Gmail account. And then based on that, I go ahead and say, well, hey, thanks for this. I'm going to go in and click, what do I want this person to be able to do? It's a specific file being shared to that specific person. I want them to be able to edit. So I hit send. That file gets shot off to that person external to our organization. We get into that email address, check that out. The person gets this, hey, Jermaine shared a file with you. Okay, let's open it. Wait a second. Can you verify that you're the actual owner of this email address? So I go back, I get a number coming from that saying, hey, here's your authorization number. Put this in. Based on that authorization number now, I've just proven that I have access to the email account that this was sent to or shared with. Hit verify. And there you go. Bob's your uncle. You're going to have access to the file.
So if somebody gets a link that they're not supposed to get and they don't have access to the email account that was sent to, they can't access that.
Correct. So now we've added multi-factor authentication into it because you have to log into the account it was sent to, which is one form of authentication, get that number and then verify it, right? So now you've put more checks in places to ensure the correct person with the access has been given the file.
Awesome.
Well,
what else do you have?
If we're going to stick into that section now and we move along, first we've gone and shared this file now, but how do I want to make sure that I can manage access? Let's say I wanted to share that file with someone for today or tomorrow or for a week, or I accidentally sent it to the wrong email address, right? Which happens to everyone. You click from the drop down, pick the person, you thought it was Brendan H, but it actually turns out to be Brenda A. And now you've got to go revoke that access. So quick way is to go in and say, hey, let me just right click on this document, see who's available. And I'm going to remove their access because I did it in accident. Remove. Do I want to do it? Yes. That person who got it in error, even though they can authenticate to that email and get the code, when they go back in here and they go to access the same file that I accidentally shared, well, there's no option to. Access is now denied. So you can really correct an issue really quickly and stop something from happening. Now, let's say you shared a deliberate file with the right person. They've authenticated, they've used it, but they're only supposed to have it for, let's say your compliance says 30 days or 1 day. One of the really great ways that you can do and ensure that you remember to remove that access that you gave away authentically, of course, is to create a column in here that has a date and time. So I've called it policy expiration. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. Nothing really needed here. Not much change is required. I just added a name. The column pops up. And with that, I can go to that same document that I shared now correctly to jermaine.techify@gmail. And I can say, you know what? I want to enter a day for this share to expire and remind myself to remove that access. So I put it to tomorrow's date, the 18th. All right, that's it. I just changed the date, hit the enter button, it saves. And now there's a policy in place to remind me that I need to expire that document on the 18th if it doesn't do it automatically. So I've got a reminder saying, hey, don't forget, just verify this document needs to be removed. And now all of a sudden, regardless of who you shared it with, they're going to get that access denied when they try to go and access that document again. So that's 3 powerful ways to really secure your data from a user sharing it out, whether accidentally, on purpose with time, or really just setting the right file expectations for a user. All right, so wow, security. Awesome. Always the last thing on the end. Always the last thing.
It's the last thing, but you know what? It's quite often one of the most important, if not the most important. So that comes to the end of the content. I hope this webinar gave you some ideas on how to use SharePoint in a little bit more of an advanced way, some other features. There's tons of functionality, but we wanted to give some examples of some of the things that we find are most useful. As we continue to do more and more of these webinars, your feedback is super important. So I've just put up a poll. If you don't mind answering that poll and giving us your feedback, that would be great. We've got a whole bunch of questions that we're going to get to right away. One other thing that we just wanted to remind everybody on, we do these webinars third Wednesday of every month. And we had so much positive feedback about our SharePoint 101 and 201 that our next webinar, we're going to do Teams 101 and Teams 201. I think a lot of people have started using Teams these days.
Yeah, and I think this will probably answer one of the questions. Teams is new, the platform is new. And there are a lot of people out there who are like, what is Teams? How does it work? Why would I need to use this? Or how can I integrate it? Right. And having that as one of the primary platforms going forward for your business requires you to get to know it, right? Everybody's been on Zoom and probably Cisco WebEx and different platforms that were pushing this type of collaboration in the past, presentation mode, polling, all of this. And Teams has now said, well, hey, we're now in here to play ball as well. So come get to know us in the 101 for Teams. And then in the 201, we're going to show you how to do everything you want to do with Teams the same way you would do it with Zoom or otherwise, right? So yeah, there's a little bit of a knowledge transfer that needs to happen for that stuff.
For sure. Okay, so if anybody wants to follow up, talk to us, that sort of thing, our contact information, I think most folks have our contact information. Jermaine and I email, direct phone numbers, whatever you prefer there. And I'm going to leave that on the screen for a minute. And let's just go right into the questions. I think, Jermaine, we can tackle them in the order that we received them.
Sure.
How about that? So first couple questions, first question is from my friend Ed down the street. We're nearby neighbors. Experiencing the Office 365 issues over the last couple of days, how concerned should I be that Office 365 has issues making my working files in SharePoint inaccessible, even temporarily can be detrimental? Great question. We saw a Teams outage a couple of days ago, and it was kind of late in the afternoon, and people weren't able to access Teams. And Microsoft occasionally has these kind of outages as every cloud provider does. Jermaine, what would you suggest folks think about with that sort of thing?
So here's the great thing about those that OneDrive map drive scenario. So if you've got all the files in your SharePoint that you require to work on as an individual or a team, and those files are synced to your computer through your OneDrive, you can actually, regardless of if Teams is on, if the internet's functioning or otherwise, or if Microsoft has an outage, regardless of what's happening, you can actually work in your file on your computer for the whole period of time. And then when the service is restored in the cloud, your changes then sync and update the file that's in the cloud. So it works in two ways. Your OneDrive makes sure that in the event of a failure, loss of connectivity, whether it's internet or the service itself goes down in the cloud, you can still work, access your files. It'll be everything up until there won't be any changes, post when the incident starts. And you can actually work on your file the same way you would any given day. And then when it loads up and the service has been restored, whether it's internet connection or otherwise, all your changes get synced because they're already locally on your computer for you to sync up to the cloud.
Awesome. Okay, so we keep on getting more questions. We're up to 10 now, so we're going to keep rolling through these. Next question. I thought I was going to have to wait until our next webinar to answer this question. Why are you not using Teams for this presentation? Fantastic question. So there's great functionality of Teams, and there's great functionality about Zoom. And one of our popular videos on our YouTube channel compares Teams and Zoom. Our experience with Teams and Zoom is that Teams is a really good piece of software to be used on a day-to-day basis for your staff, for communicating, for collaborating, that sort of thing. Our experience on the webinar side of things is that Teams is not as effective. There isn't a simple registration process that they've created. Like Microsoft's built up live events or a Teams Live, but it's not quite there yet. It's not quite ready for prime time. Like for us, so Sandra, who we work with on the marketing side, who's fantastic. She just spins up these webinars in no time at all. And it's a pretty easy process to just get people registered and post the recordings and
a part of it too, as I was alluding to earlier, the knowledge around Teams, like, you know, Sandra's great. She's got so much power when she uses Zoom, but she needs to have that introduction to Teams, and Teams as well needs to catch up to the things that are webinar ready, which Zoom as an organization has been doing only that for their entire time. So it's only a matter of time before they become on par. I mean, maybe we'll have to do well, here's Teams today versus Zoom. You'll have to do a follow-up video.
Even that video that was recorded, I think it was about 8 months ago it was recorded. Yeah. It's totally out of date now. Like, so what, because it talks about you can't get as many people up on the screen in Teams as you can in Zoom. So if you have 20 people on a call, you should use Zoom. That's not the case anymore, right? You can put tons of people on Teams. So also, Microsoft's great in the R&D.
I'm going to point out, I don't have this smooth skin, right? The touch up on Zoom is way better than Teams.
Yeah, Jermaine and I both have like big craters in our faces and our heads and stuff like that. So Zoom just kind of cleans it up and makes us look like normal people.
I'll make sure to close my mouth.
All right, so let's go next question from Alexi. How do you tell, or can you tell who has checked out a document when you do check in, check out?
Can I take that one?
Absolutely.
I love this one. It tells you what time the person has checked it out. It tells you who it is. It'll show you their picture. It'll even give you a button to say, hey, I'd like you to stop to check this document back in so that I can use it. So yeah, it tells you everything about the user. When they last accessed it, when they checked it out, everything is tracked in SharePoint. So you never miss a beat. And I'm doing this to answer, I think, two questions here, because when you look at that and you can tell exactly who accessed it, when they accessed it, if they still have it checked out and the like, and you can ask them to check the document back in, it's a full workflow in the SharePoint, right? And that's something you'll see for every single document that somebody has touched.
Okay. So Jermaine, do you think we've covered the next couple of questions on versioning and version history?
Absolutely. So for Leslie's question, just to add a little more color to that, whatever you wanted to change, you can go back to the previous version. So let's say there's somebody edited between yourself and the most current version, and that person's edits were not correct. What you can do is there's a way to look at the current document and look at the edits that each person made in the current document, kind of like track changes. And exactly like track changes. So with that, you can actually keep the current version if it has your information and the last person, but you want to remove the middle person's information. You can actually go in there and reject those changes, right? So now we're looking, instead of versioning, we're looking at track changes. And you can actually go in now and accept what you want at a line item level, right? So and it also tells you in there, well, this person made this addition. So you've got no issue finding which one of the things you'd like to reject.
And I think that answers the version history question that Jessica had too. You can see, so if somebody restores an older version, and you look at the version history, that older version that they restore becomes the latest version, right? So you can still go and you can still see the other versions.
Yeah, there's no way around it. The tracking's always there.
Which is great. And I used to, I worked for a professional services firm for a while that we had track changes on all the time of stuff. And it's a bit of a pain in the butt, right? It's nice to be able to just kind of turn it on if it's if you want it, and if you don't want it, you just turn it off. Okay, so next question: can external users collaborate with internal users? This is a great question. This is like, you're working on a project, you have a client that's outside of your company, or, you know, maybe you're working on a house renovation or a budget, and your wife or your husband or your significant other works outside of your organization. Can you collaborate with people outside the organization, Jermaine?
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the ways that we looked at in the earlier slides would be to reference, how do I securely share a file with someone that's not part of my organization? You can share a file, you can share a folder. And once that person has access now, you can work on the document the same way you would and collaborate the same way you would with someone internally, because you've given permissions to that document for edit, read, write, and the like to that external organization or person, right? So yeah, absolutely. You set them up, and then of course you want to set a date as to when that collaboration is going to end so you can revoke access.
For sure. And next question, Ruben was asking if we can send the slides for reference. Yeah, just email either Jermaine or myself, Brendan@techify.ca or Jermaine@techify.ca. Fairly easy to remember, hopefully. Just email us, or you can give us a call, and we'll get the slide deck out to you. This is also recorded, so if you want to go back and watch the recording, it'll be posted on our website within probably the next day or so.
And you can also show the recording to anybody you want, right? They just need to click on the link and follow.
Yeah, like it makes for great Saturday nights watching webinars.
I don't know. We're not Saturday Night Live yet, I don't think.
No. All right. We'll keep working on that. Jermaine, do you want to answer Faria's question about how encryption is different between SharePoint and VPN?
Absolutely. So SharePoint is like accessing any email server. You click on a link, it opens up a browser, you go to Gmail, you go to Yahoo, you go to Hotmail, you go to Microsoft. There's no requirement for you to establish a connection between your on-premise server or your computer with another computer or server in another place, okay? So with SharePoint, it's direct access. So the encryption, you're ideally looking at a closed environment when you're in SharePoint. Whereas with VPN, you're actually creating a tunnel between one place and another place and sending data back and forth. So now you're actually sending data with VPN outside of your organization into the internet space, and then downloading it to the location that it's going to. And then once it's been edited, it transfers those updates back. That's one of the reasons VPN isn't great, is because if your internet cuts out when you're doing that, your files traveling between the two locations or that VPN pipe gets corrupted or otherwise, or it takes a while for changes to sync. So it's harder to collaborate with people when you're doing that.
Nice. All right. What else? How about, okay. So follow-up question, if I'm collaborating externally, can internal users see my changes in real time?
Everybody can see your changes in real time, external, internal.
Yeah. So if you've given somebody permission externally to access something, then same sort of deal if it's internal, like you've given that same sort of permission, and they can, if they're editing or you're editing, if you set it up that way, they can see it. I think let's go one more question. Jermaine, if someone checks out a document and forgets to check it back in, is another user able to request for that document to be checked in again?
Absolutely. So gone are the days where you're like, it says somebody has the file locked for editing and you can't do anything. In this case, it shows you the person's picture, their face and everything, and it actually gives you a link or a button that you can hit and say request access, which means the person has to check the document back in. So yeah, that works for anyone in your organization, regardless of security level, as long as they have access to that file.
Yeah, and hopefully you don't have to send them emails and Teams messages and emojis and stuff like that to
scan documents.
Yeah, but they could have it checked out because they're still working on it.
Yeah, there's that too. Absolutely.
Okay. Do you want to talk about backing up SharePoint, or did we deal with that in 101? Okay.
We did, but I mean, we can still answer it for him just to make sure.
All right, go ahead.
Versioning's one way. If you've ever done a cybersecurity audit, or you've applied for cyber insurance as an example, or you're applying for funding, they ask a number of questions as to how do you ensure that if your current tenant or space that you're working in is compromised, that you have the data available somewhere else to bring yourself back online later. So let's say you get hit with ransomware or malicious content deletes your entire Microsoft 365 as an example, or G Suite. There's an external backup system that you can use that's cloud to cloud backup. There are multiple agents out there. There's Veeam, there's Datto, SAS, or Backupify. And any number of them that you can utilize out there. But yeah, like it is recommended, and it is a requirement when you do cybersecurity checks or you do a cybersecurity insurance application. They ask you how you're backing that up separately, and there's a number of great software out there that does cloud to cloud backup.
Cool. Great answer. As we're wrapping up, I see most people have provided us feedback, which is great. We have, hey, 70% of people gave us an 8 or better, Jermaine. That's nice. Very nice. We may just follow up with a couple people that gave us 6s and 7s, just to get a little bit more of a sense of that feedback. But I think overall, this has been great. I've enjoyed it. I can tell that you've enjoyed it. I hope everybody that's been watching has enjoyed it and has learned a little bit about SharePoint. Feel free to follow up with us if you asked us to follow up with you. We will do so in the next couple of days, and we're always willing to help, provide advice, give our feedback, that sort of thing, and help people work more effectively and more securely.
And we very much appreciate the feedback. Any ways we can improve and make it work better for everyone will be a way for us to go forward. So that's great. Thank you for the feedback, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks for watching today. Thank you, Jermaine. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye.